vegetables, dog food stalls with the beefcake pantyhose. Kill the headlights and put it in neutral. Stock car flaming with the loser in the cruise control. Babies in Reno with the vitamin D. Got a couple of couches, sleep on the love seat. Someone came saying I'm insane to complain about a shotgun wedding and a stain on my shirt. Don't believe everything that you breathe. You get a parking violation and a maggot on your sleeve. So shave your face with some mace in the dark. Saving all your food stamps and burning down the trailer park. Yo, cut it. So with a phony gas chamber, cause one's got a weasel and other's got a flag. One's on the pole, shove the other in the bag. With the rerun shows and the cocaine nose job, the daytime crap of the folk singer slub. He hung himself with a guitar string, a slab of turkey neck, and it's hanging from a pigeon wing. To get right if you can't relate, trade the cash for the beat, for the body, for the hate. And my time is a piece of wax falling on a termite who's choking on the splinters. So I'm a loser, baby. So why don't you kill me? Get crazy with the cheese whiz. So I'm a loser, baby. So why don't you kill me? Drive-by body pierce.
Oh, love a bit of Beck. Hello, good morning. How the devil are you? I was gonna wait. So I've been watching what happened at the Women and Equalities Committee. Now, and EHRC. I'm just gonna say look, I'm not on the side of any of them. I think they've all been dreadful. I think the EHRC has done this diplomatic kind of slow, cowardly, terrible advocacy for women. I think they've when called upon, I think they've totally let women down. So I'm not even on their side. I'm not even going to do that thing that everybody seems to be doing of saying that these people, Baroness Faulkner, brilliant, isn't she so wonderful? Or she's no. Sorry. I'm not going to do that. I'll tell you why I'm not going to do it, because there are women working in low-paid jobs who are expecting the Equality and Human Rights Commission to stand up for them, and they didn't. So, I'm not kissing any arses, and not trying to rub along in and sit in special rooms and watch special committees means that I don't have to say nice things about people I think have done a really fucking shit job. Okay? But so I was going to wait, and I was going to clip it all together, and wasn't going to be so great, and we could all laugh at the idiocy of MPs, and I could remind you all that being an MP means that probably you're a little bit thick and you can't make money somewhere else, right? Unless you've already had a career. But Rachel Taylor, she is loving those balls for a tennis umpire. For a tennis umpire, she really hasn't let go of the love of balls. We're going to see just how much in a minute. She really likes to centre balls in her chat with the EHRC. So I'm just going to show you this bit. There is so much more that's awful. It's like the bitchy girls club. That's what it seems. It seems that there's a load of women that need to be taken somewhere and given a bit of a stern talking to about the fact that they are supposed to do a job and look after all of us. Okay? So let's just remember, when everyone's going, oh, thank you, Baroness Faulkner, her and the EHRC and the European Commission on Human Rights, they all hate you. They all hate you. They couldn't give a shit about you. and there's loads of preening MPs who, quite frankly, seem to have their pants on too tight. Very uppity. I just recommend they just take a toilet break and just maybe pull the pants out of between their arse, and maybe they won't be so uncomfortable and therefore so deeply unpleasant and rude. Ball cradling. Did we do this before where we talked about ball cradling? I think we did. Tess, you've got a great memory. Anyway, so I think it's that, isn't it? Maybe it's that. I should put that on a t-shirt. Maybe it's that. Maybe that's what they're doing. Bit of the tickle of the old testicles of the troons. Cradling balls and butterfly kissing them. Oh, okay. Well, I thought I made it up. Now you've just ruined my momentum. I can't speak this morning. Anyway, we're going to just have a look at this a little bit because I think it's really indicative of where members of parliament are. And let's not forget, do you remember in the old days where there was hardly anybody speaking about it? Like, not that old before I spoke about it. But when I first started talking about it, 2015, 2016, there were loads of people who weren't talking about it. It wasn't really talked about. And when I said they're not men about trans women, I was told it was bracing. It was impolite. And then you've got a lot of, like, there was a film made. Oh my God, it was so boring. But there was a film made where all the way through it's like male person, male people, male body. And I think had we not said this shit in 2016, 2015, none of this may have happened. So anyway, let's play it because I think it's so bad, everybody. It's so bad. Let's have a look. That is the face of a very cross woman. She's very cross and she's very self-righteous. She's very sure of herself. And she wants Baroness Faulkner and the EHRC to know. She has no respect for them whatsoever. So this is on Parliament TV. You can watch it. It's an exercise in restraint by not throwing your own phone, computer, laptop, whatever you're watching it on, out through a window.
All of the HRC
So somebody asked something long-winded, this guy, and then she goes, "We're all clear." It's not a good look, is it? She's got eyes on her eyelids.
Thank you very much for that. What I'm going to do is actually where Baroness Faulkner left off, I think it's a good place to bring in Rachel.
She's already said right at the beginning of this that everyone's got some really great questions, really important questions. I'm probably going to swear. I may shout. So be ready for that.
Thank you, and welcome to the committee. It's my first time interviewing you, and you're very welcome here. The EHRC has been saying that there is an
Can I just say as well, what these people do is they say something with no qualifiers whatsoever. So listen to what she says. I'm going to have to go back.
The committee. It's my first time interviewing you, and you're very welcome here. The EHRC has been saying that there is an incompatibility between the Gender Recognition Act and the Equality Act.
I'm just going to interject there and say there is, but the Equality Act is also shit. So in a minute, this woman asked something, and I think she's right. I think she's right to ask this question, not because I think it's a valid question and I give a shit about these men, but I think she highlights the absolute idiocy of having something called the Gender Recognition Act. She doesn't know that she's doing that. I suspect that she's very much on side of a flaccid, trooned, penis-wielding man. But that said, she is dead right.
To what extent has the Supreme Court judgment resolved those concerns and brought clarity?
Yes, I don't think we said there was an incompatibility, that possibly another group, it wasn't us. We said that the practical implication of the Equality Act was made very difficult by the differential uses of sex and gender within the Equality 2010 Act itself. We're not the regulator of the gender.
See, look, right from the off, we have polite people talking about stuff that is totally doesn't make any sense. There's no such thing as gender, which Gender Recognition Act makes it there to be such a thing as gender. And then what the Gender Recognition Act does is it has impact on sex, right? It's anyway, I'll get stuck on this, so I'll just let it go.
Gender Recognition Act. I just wanted to clarify that. But the Supreme Court judgment, looking very narrowly at only the Equality Act for the purposes of its statutory interpretation, found that the meaning of sex in the Act, rather than gender, was the meaning that should apply for the purposes of the Equality.
Don't you dare do this to me. I've got dodgy signal, I think. Let's see. It's raining. Have I still got you? Have I still got you and I just haven't got that? Come on. Let me just see if I can.
Of what you're talking about, both of you, in us as people who.
So you cannot then admit someone in order to be.
But I would not be able to definitively tell why is the 2006 Equality Act and we recognise the third category of the gender recognition.
I think we do understand the role of the
compatibility, that possibly another group, it wasn't us. We said that the practical implication of the Equality Act was made very difficult by the differential uses of sex and gender within the Equality 2010 Act itself. We're not the regulator of the Gender Recognition Act. I just wanted to clarify that. But the Supreme Court judgment, looking very narrowly at only the Equality Act for the purposes of its statutory interpretation, found that the meaning of sex in the Act, rather than gender, was the meaning that should apply for the purposes of the Equality Act 2010. And that has clarified.
And I don't know why anyone needed that clarifying who worked at the Equality and Human Rights Commission, who was privy to the bringing about the Equality Act, who would have been able to see all the conversations, all the things in Hansard, and everything that when they talked about sex in the Equality Act that had come from the previous Sex Discrimination Act, they would have known that it always meant biological sex. So why they needed a Supreme Court ruling and why it changed anything, I think does definitely mean that the Equality and Human Rights Commission is a big pile of shit and run very badly and has really done a disservice to women.
Like that for us. Our advice and our intervention to the court itself didn't say that, and our advice till that point had been different, because we recognised a different category, in addition to a man and a woman, female and male. We recognised a third category, which was legal sex, and so we thought.
Yeah, how shit is that? Like, when you are asked in the future, like if this all goes badly, when you are asked in the future, who was it that puts some of the final nails in the coffin of women's rights? The Equality and Human Rights Commission. Like the Women's Equality Commission, I think we are all acutely aware that they're tedious and terrible. But the Equality and Human Rights Commission has done such a bad job ever since its inception that they are totally culpable. And whilst I feel sorry for everyone here, they're paid very good money to do a really shit job.
That a man or a woman, legal sex, in other words, the sex at birth, was also augmented by people who had gender recognition certificates, whereby that small group of people could also be, once they had a gender recognition certificate, could also be defined as the sex that they had acquired as a process of transition. And the Supreme Court has clarified that, and that we were inaccurate in that regard.
Yes, you were completely inaccurate.
So you're saying there is an incompatibility between those two pieces of legislation?
I'm not commenting on the Gender Recognition Act other than to implement the Supreme Court ruling, which comments on Section 9(1) of the Gender Recognition Act, which has a clause to say that for all purposes a person's acquired gender changes. And then Section 9(3) says, but that wasn't the intention of Parliament in passing the 2010 Act. So I wouldn't.
You damn well know that Rachel hasn't read these acts and doesn't really understand anything about this, don't you?
Go so far. It is not our role to comment on the Gender Recognition Act, and I wouldn't go so far as to say that we have found an incompatibility in that. We are restricted to our role in interpreting the 2006 Equality Act and the 2010 Equality Act.
It doesn't sound to me like things are particularly clear. So do you think there's still a role for Parliament to play in legislating to bring further clarity?
What that means is, do you think we can change it? Do you think we can now have men being included as women? Remember, this woman is an ex-umpire.
Further clarity?
Well, I think, given that you've had the highest court in the land rule on this matter in a fairly definitive 88-page judgment, if there, I would suggest that perhaps Parliament would be better advised to let the regulator work through the bedding down of that statutory interpretation to seeing how it works in practice, in tribunals and courts, in workplaces, in schools, on the sports fields, and so on, public spaces. The code of practice that we're just publishing is on services, duty.
What really irritates me about all of this is it's that process thing again. Men are men and women, and you cannot change. There is no place for a man to be included in something that's women only. How difficult is this? You don't need a certificate. You don't need anything. You don't need to read the act. You don't need any of this. It just sounds like some people want to pour through, like, what are they going to do? They're going to say, right, okay, so there's a field trip to the Outer Hebrides, and what we found is that a man had cut off his penis, and he wanted to go on the field trip, but it was for women only. And what we have to ask is service users and stakeholders and some other people, do they think the man can go without his penis to the Outer Hebrides on the trip just for women? And we don't see any conflict with that. And we'd like a third option for some made-up things and some made-up people, because we'd like to do some more work for the next 7 months on something totally made up that most people with actually half a brain could just come up with and just say, well, no, clearly. He's a man! Or something like that.
Bearers, I would suggest that it would be wise for space to be given to the regulator to see how that beds down, to provide guidance on what duty bearers should be doing in those circumstances, and then to evaluate. But you make a very interesting point, if I could just take us back to that. There is a convention in Parliament, passed I think in the Cragg Act of 2010, that pieces of legislation should be reviewed periodically in terms of post-legislative scrutiny. And I looking at the review of the Equality Act itself, 2010 particularly, 2006 and 2010 Acts, I have long suggested on a personal level that we've never had that review of either of those two acts in Parliament. And we're now 15 years and 19 years into those two acts. You could argue, I suppose, that it's time for a review. In fact, the only evaluation done of it was done by your committee, its predecessor committee, in 2019, when they reviewed the work of the Equality and Human Rights Commission. So they didn't review the acts, but they reviewed our work in that way.
Oh, good. Let's have a review of the act. Let's pretend that until the review is done, we don't really know what we're doing.
regard. So one could go either way. I don't have particularly strong views on that.
Thank you. So I can't push you on the Gender Recognition Act. So you're leaving that to one side and commenting on the.
So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pretend that you're being like obstructive, and when I'm asking you a clear question, even though you said it's not part of your remit, I'm going to give you a little pissy, shitty, like impolite answer. You know, in a kind of, well, all right, I can see you're not answering that then. So we'll put that to one side because you're being a bit of a cow, aren't you? Is what she's saying.
On the Equality Act of 2010, that's fine. So I'll move on to my second question, which is, and this is more on a personal level, and is a sort of question that many of my constituents are asking. So I want to start a trans-inclusive women's walking association. Your interim update says that I can't. But former Supreme Court Judge Lord Sumption says that while the recent judgment means women's organisations can exclude trans women, they're not necessarily obliged to do so. Is he wrong or are you wrong?
I want to start a women only something, but include men. And what I want to know, is it all right if we include those men in the women only, you know, only women? Is it all right to include men? Is that all right? You know, trans inclusive. That doesn't mean women who've taken testosterone. I just want to know if we can include men. I'm very concerned about men. My whole question's about men. I'm not really interested in the women because what I'm saying is when I start that walking holiday, you know, off a cliff, when I start that, and I'm doing that, and I'm going to do that, and we're going to be walking, and actually we won't be walking, we'll be cycling, but we call it walking because nothing I say actually makes any sense. So I'm going to have women only, right, but include men. So is that exactly, you've basically told everyone who wants to do that I'm a slag? Is that what you're saying here, Baroness Faulkner? That only slags want to do walks with men in dresses? Because that's what I'm hearing. That's what Sumter said about you. You know, that's what he said.
I'm not going to comment on the views of someone where I haven't come across them and I don't know what the context was.
Well, I'll tell you, Baroness, he sounds like a bit of a prick.
Or in what format he was speaking, or indeed his
Actually, he might not be. He might be on our side, and I don't know.
reasoning, because I don't think I've read anything by Lord Sumption on these matters. I can only comment on the Supreme Court judgment itself and our interpretation of it. I hope you'll understand that.
Baroness Faulkner, before you go on.
Actually, Baroness, you will fucking answer her question because it's a good question. So if you're not going to answer her question, like, what are you even for?
I think actually, even if you take out the ruling, I think
She was going to answer the question, actually. But even if you don't want to answer about Lord Sumption, why don't you talk about the women's cycling club that doesn't cycle and isn't just for women? Actually. Okay?
Rachel's question stands. Is she allowed to set up a trans-inclusive women's walking group or not under your...
Is she allowed to set up a group and call it for women, so when women join it and then men are part of it and those women get gaslit and they don't actually have a women's group after all? Bitch, aren't you? Baroness Faulkner? Think you can come in here and be reasonable?
your guidance?
I was just coming to that. But the second point that you raised was the interim update. Can I leave the interim update aside for now and go specifically to your
Oh my God.
question? And your question is really goes to the heart of whether service is wishing to provide a single sex service or a mixed sex service. And
What she's saying here really is, I think you're all actually quite dim. And so I'm going to talk slowly because you're hostile and stupid, which, frankly, for me, it's quite a heady mix.
It is, if you're wishing to provide a single-sex service, then I think you should perhaps look very closely at who the people are that you are permitting to be part of that, engaged with that service. There is no obligation on you to provide a single-sex service in that context. In competitive sports, competitive gendered sports, it's a different issue. But in a park run, it would simply be a matter of choice for you whether you wish to provide a mixed-sex service or not.
So if I was, so under your interpretation, if I wanted to set up a women's walking association, I would have to exclude trans women.
Or include men.
Or include men.
They are men, you dickhead. They are men, Rachel. So what you're saying is if I want to do a women's only walking group, I have to exclude men or include men. Is that what you say? I don't understand it. I don't really get it. Like, are you saying that women means women only? Because that's confusing me. That I can't get my head around that.
Well, it depends on whether you wanted it to be single sex or mixed sex. It really would be your own definition in terms of what you wanted in that service that you were wishing to provide.
Remembering, Rach, that it's a service you're providing. And so if you're offering a service to women, then it has to be for women. And if you're not offering that service to women, if you're saying that men can be included, it's not a service for women. How fucking difficult an idea is this?
Well, I thought I'd made that clear.
I thought I made it clear. I wanted women and dicks all mixed in the same thing. I thought it was perfectly clear. I said I wanted women and men included, and you keep going on about single sex. Well, I'm saying it's women and men. And then I'm saying, but not men. But women and men, but not men. You know, women and men, like in the same walking group, off a cliff, cycling, whatever the fuck they're doing. Women and men. And then you're saying, and I'm saying, but without any men. And you're saying, well, then it's, do what you like. And I don't really get it. Is it mixed sex or single sex? And I'm saying both. And I don't understand.
To set up a women's walking association that was inclusive of trans women.
Then it's not fucking women, is it? What I'm saying is, if I have a sticker in my hand, 2 stickers in my hand, and I drop 1 sticker, I'd like to have 2 stickers. I'm saying, if I've got a sticker and I rip it in half, I'd like that to be a whole sticker. I'm saying, if I drink 3 bottles of wine and drive, I'd like to drive sober. That's all I'm saying. I don't know what you don't get about that. If I punch this woman next to me in the face repeatedly and she bleeds, I'd like to say it was an act of non-violence.
Can I or can I not do that?
You can do what the fuck you like, but it will be against the Equality Act, you fucking bellend. I'm saying, can I both have no money and have £1 million in my hand? Can I both cut my arms off and be a typist? That's what I'm asking. It's a simple question. You'd have to be a fucking moron to not understand it.
So the rules on associations depends on how many people are members of the associations.
Let's say I've got 50, for fuck's sake, Baroness.
I think it's 25 people or more. But since I'm obviously not being very clear, I wonder, John, whether you might like to...
Maybe you'll understand a man's voice, because I think that's what it's going to take, isn't it, Rachel? You're going to hear about it from someone with a penis, about other people with penises.
come in on that. You perhaps be clearer. I thought I was clear in the distinction between single and mixed sex.
I might or I might not, but I'll try. As we understand it, it is the choice of an organisation whether it wants to establish a single-sex service or not. If it does choose to establish a single-sex service, then in order to secure the protections available in the Equality Act for that single-sex service, the definition of single-sex has to be biological.
If it's for women, Rach, it's women only. Okay? That's all it is. It's just women only. If it's for women, it's women only. If you invite one man in, it's no longer women only.
So you cannot then admit someone who is not of that biological sex without losing that protection. The question, though, is whether the important question is whether you need to set up whether you want to set up a single-sex service in the first place. If you want to set up a service that is not single-sex, then there's no obstacle to doing that. It's if you do, then in order to secure the protections available in the Equality Act, it has to be a single sex based on biological sex.
If I was to want to join Rachel's walking group, sounds fab, love walking.
Sounds fab, love walking, kind of think I'm on TikTok or something. Wow.
How could you tell, and how could Rachel tell?
If I did want to join, let's say I'm a massive, great, big boundary erasing troon. Let's just say that. Let's come along. And I said, wow, Rach, loving the walking. Amazeballs. I've got a cock, but you won't be able to tell. And I just go and join that women's group. And I do that because I think, fuck that for a fucking bag of spanners. If I want to join, if I'm a massive raging troon and I want to join a women's walking, cycling off a cliff group, right? It's just women only. What the fuck are you going to do about it? Like, I'll just join. And what I'm acknowledging here is that these men, they just love erasing the boundaries of women and going in places that they wouldn't be allowed. And I'm saying that you might see my cock, but you still wouldn't know. So you can look at my pants, Baroness, are you?
Whether I was a cisgendered woman or whether I was a trans woman, can you
You would not know whether I was a fucking strawberry or whether I was a bloke, would you? You wouldn't know if I was an alien that literally arrived 5 minutes ago from Mars, or if I was a 5-year-old girl, would you? No. You wouldn't know, would you? Fuck you.
tell Baroness Faulkner by looking at me?
I wish Baroness Faulkner at this point said, well, we all assumed that you did have a penis.
I could make an informed judgment, but I would not be able to definitively tell.
If you had a big fat Adam's apple, giant hands, huge trini feet, and a cock, I'd know.
Whether, particularly if you said you were not. And I think this is something actually that goes to the heart of, if you don't mind my saying so, the social contract that exists between us as people who live in our country. And that is this, that society is not based on policing outside toilets. Society is not based on policing outside certain venues. Society is based on trust. On trust that in a workplace which provides single-sex toilets, that the people who will use those toilets will generally know what the sign, woman or man, says on the door, and they will abide by that. So we're not talking about people with badges coming along to enforce anything. If you decided to be part of Rachel Taylor's group, and I was another participant in that group, I'd have no concerns about the 24 other, if it was an association, the 24 other people in the group, or I might have concerns. I think let's get to the heart of what you're talking about, both of you. What we're talking about is the privacy and dignity and safety and security of a certain group in society. We're talking about religious observance and certain religious norms that also dictate that some people may wish for different kinds of privacy to others. I'm sorry, forgive me, I'm a Muslim, and so I know well my own community and the requirements that are called upon for us. So if you're in, I think the better analogy would be a sick patient in an NHS ward who is offered the right to be in single-sex wards and then discovers that the intrusive medical care that they're getting is not provided by their expectation that they would be looked after by their own sex. Let's go to the other side of that, again using the NHS as an example.
Baroness Faulkner, may I just stop you there? That was not what we asked. Actually, what Rachel...
We were asking about walking groups. And you're talking about something serious. So we were talking about literal walking groups, which is really important. And you're talking about someone ill, NHS. So just stick to the topic. It's about walking groups.
Rachel was asking you was the position of many member organisations at the moment, many sports teams, and we're not talking about big organisations here, we're talking about small organisations that are left in limbo at the moment and trying to do the right thing.
Here's the fucking limbo. Here it is. Women only means women only. It's not difficult. Everyone makes this difficult. It's not fucking difficult. There's no accommodations for these fucking men. Let's just put that on the table. I don't give a shit about these men. I don't care if they never leave their houses again. I don't care about them. I don't have to care about them. I care about women and girls. What, as a consequence of looking after women and girls, what happens to those men, I couldn't give a shit. I'm sick and tired of everyone thinking, oh my God, if I talk about this minority, then I am just such a special person. Like, let's stop encouraging our daughters to do that, shall we? Let's just stop that. Let's just stop this bullshit that is the socialization of women, which is that my best currency, and I can see it in that room, right? The best currency for women is what? A little bit of status, like sitting on a chair, listening to this committee, being in the room, all having a little bit of a drink and a joke after. Like, there are ivory towers in the gender critical movement, of which I am not in, right? I'm not in it. I'm a women's rights campaigner. I have my own path, part, etc. But even in this, there's the people that get together who think they somehow are really, really important. And it's so fucking female, and it's just exactly the same as these women. They're the same women. They just happen to be on different sides of the argument. But they're the same women. They want to be invited. They want to be included. They want to be thought of as better. They just, that's what they're doing. And women just manufacture this sort of shit in different places. At that moment, it's in the Women Inequalities Committee. And they're all mostly assholes. And there's a couple of outliers. I'm sure there are. I'm sure not every single person in it is, but the two women that are speaking are. And then you have women fighting this, but who will also hold their language back, will also talk in these weird things. Like, there is a recognition here, like trans. Nobody said what trans is. Like, let's just say, can't somebody say to this woman, and maybe Baroness Faulkner's building up to it, and I apologize if she did, rather than just going back to sex and sex and sex, how about saying, look, what you're asking is, can we include men in women-only associations, right? Let's not talk about sex. Let's not just go back to let's just talk about the Supreme Court made a ruling that sex was biological sex, and we know that sex in law, the female sex in law, is the word woman. That's how it is through legislation. And the male sex in law is the word man. That's how it exists throughout legislation. So let's just fucking use the word, shall we? And then we won't have... I want to see that woman explode. I want to see someone say the word man 100 times, like every time she says some bullshit, trans woman, male person, male. I want someone just to say the word man. Break the fucking spell. This is so annoying.
I'm going to just hand over back to Rachel to finish her questions. Thank you.
What I'm now going to ask, you know, if I wanted to be a strawberry, but I didn't want to be jam, would you call me a liar?
And I think I'm clear on your answer that if I want to set up a women's walking association
And include men,
that excludes cis men,
that excludes men.
then I cannot include transgender women.
If I want to set up, this is a question. If I want to set up a women's walking group that excludes men, I can't include men. Someone just fucking say it. Baroness Faulkner should say that back to her right now. Because she said the word woman. She hasn't said female sex. She said the word woman.
Women. Is that what you've said? Okay, thank you. I'll move on.
See, now we've got to couch the language. This is a fucking problem. And this is replicated throughout most of the people who sit behind. Right? Because of situations like this, where it is repeatedly kind of deemed offensive if you use the word man. I'll be fucking surprised if someone uses it in this whole thing. I damn well hope they do. I don't mean to cast shade or criticize. I'm just saying we need to say the word man. It has to be said. We can't keep fucking around not saying it. Baroness Faulkner at that point should have repeated her question and said, you have just asked me this question. If I want to set up a women-only group that excludes men, I can't include men. And then she would have had to start fucking talking about the whole cisgender trans. And it's bullshit.
To the next question. In the past few weeks, you've told fearful trans people that this judgment brings clarity when they've got no idea what they're supposed to do. You've
Stay the fuck out of women's spaces. That's what they can all do.
told them that they're banned by law from gendered spaces when that's not what the Supreme Court judgment said. And you've dismissed their concerns by telling them they should use their powers of advocacy to ask for third spaces that they can use. I've received messages from up and down the country, including from my constituents who are trans people.
Right, if you're watching this, everyone, this is what I'm going to ask you to do, because I think that this woman is dishonest. So I would like us all to write to Rachel Taylor MP, right? Everyone, now, do it now. You can just go online. You can send an email as her remit of the Women and Equality Committee, right? I want you to write to Rachel Taylor MP and tell her that the way she behaved in that committee was atrocious, and that as a woman, you feel that keeping all men out, no matter what they call themselves, is an absolute essential part of being a free and liberal woman in this, a free woman with liberty in this country. It doesn't, don't make it long. Make her fucking read every last one of them, though. Don't make it long. So you'll probably, she's probably like Rachel Taylor MP at parliament.co.uk or something. In fact, I'm going to look it up. Rachel Taylor MP. You can write to her. Here we go. She's at Rachel Taylor MP. And you can write to her at rachel.taylor.mp at parliament.uk. And I want every single woman watching this, which it might be 3 and 3.5 of you. I want every single woman watching this to now just flick over to your phone, open your Gmail, whatever mail provider you've got, open your Gmail, type in that link, rachel.taylor@mp.parliament.uk, and tell her now that you are delighted that the country, after the Supreme Court, is maybe taking the course where men are no longer allowed in any women-only spaces or associations, and that you think anybody calling themselves a woman or a trans woman who was male, recognized as male at birth, is not welcome in your female-only space, or the female-only space of your mother or your daughter, and that you fundamentally disagree that these men should be recognized as women in law. I think you should all do that now. There's 3,119 watching. 3,219 people watching. So that's all I'm going to say. Just do that. Just do that now. Do it now. rachel.taylor.mp@parliament.uk. Okay, let's carry on.
Who say that they may have to resign from their jobs because of your interim update, that they've now developed UTIs because they're scared.
Oh no, because they can't. So they're working in an environment where there's enough toilets that there's a male and a female toilet, but there's not a disabled toilet. Are we saying that? There's not an accessible toilet. Now, I'm not saying that people with disabilities should have to give up space for those, but disability access toilets are for the access of disabled people, not only disabled people, right? And most of us, moral people, don't use a toilet for disabled people because we recognize that they should have the first kind of access to that toilet. I fucking do not believe for a moment that there are men up and down this country who are not using the toilet because there are so much so that they're getting UTIs and there's no disabled toilet in their work. I don't believe them. But the next thing she said is really quite interesting, and this is where I can agree with her, and this is where, again, I think both the Equality Act and the Gender Recognition Act should go. And I do believe that they are in total, the two pieces of legislations don't work with each other. And in addition, they don't work at all for women, neither one of them.
To use bathrooms without being challenged, and that they have completely lost faith in the EHRC.
Yeah, like Massive Dave. Oh, Massive Dave, who's now Janet. He used the men's toilet. Oh my God, did he? Oh, okay.
Your leadership, and believe that you're no longer interested in standing up for their rights. What do you have to say to those people?
Isn't it just amazing that this from the other way round, say in 2015, 2016, 2017, there was never a debate the other way round about women having to accept men in their spaces. It's so shameful.
First thing I would say to those people is that they should respond to our consultation, because we give tangible, practical, day-to-day examples of how those people will navigate all of those practical things that you've just mentioned.
And are they one of the groups that you are holding specific sessions for?
Indeed, yes. Yes, I can confirm that. So the first thing to do is to read our consultation document carefully and to respond to it. We would welcome and indeed come along to our consultation sessions, because we're having several sessions with those groups. So that is the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say was that please do not be fearful. If you don't mind, I'll go back to first principles, because I think first principles are always profoundly important. The Supreme Court judgment itself said it does not cause disadvantage to trans people with or without a GRC. In light of case law interpreting relevant provisions, they would be able to invoke the provisions on direct discrimination and harassment and indirect discriminations. So when the Supreme Court itself is saying you haven't lost a right, then I don't see why this particular group of people would become so fearful because the rights that exist are rights in terms of exemptions to single-sex services and separate-sex services have always been there in the Equality Act.
Yes, and you assholes, including you, the EHRC, totally misinterpreted them, and nobody admitted that women for all that time lost their rights. I'd like to see more aggression here. I'm not lying.
We can say to you unequivocally that in our interpretation of the Act, trans people have not lost any rights, as the Supreme Court has informed us and the whole country. Could I just correct something on associations? I think I may have misspoken because I was imagining an association in a different context to a group of people who get together for rambling. So you can't have an association because everyone in an association has to have the same protected characteristics. So two associations can do things together. We'll come on to that perhaps at a later date, but it's slightly more complex. But yes, our explanation of that was overall correct, yes.
Thank you. Yeah,
That raises further questions.
It does
but
raise
I will
further questions,
allow
but
you to move.
Thank you, and I think some of Rachel's colleagues on the committee will go to those further questions. I'm going to go to Alex and then to Catherine. Okay?
Thank you. In your interim report, did you consider or look into the impact of the ruling on hermaphrodite or intersex people?
Fucking hell. Who are biologically one sex or another. Right, I can't even deal with someone who uses the word hermaphrodite. What an absolute spoon of a human being. But look, that's Rachel. You know, just to reiterate one more time, because I don't know if I really understood. But if I have a women-only group and men are excluded, can I include men? I mean, that's pretty much all I want to ask. If I cut my head off, am I definitely headless? If I want to commit a public act of indecency, am I breaking the law? If I'm only 14, can I drink alcohol in a pub? That's all I'm asking. I'm just saying, you're talking about the law. I'm trying to see the law, and I'm an absolute fuckwit. It is just incredible. I'm going to do more of this. I'm going to try and cut their ridiculousness. I think Baroness Faulkner, whilst is very calm, I really don't agree with her. I think there fundamentally is a conflict between the Gender Recognition Act and the Equality Act. 100%. I think the Gender Recognition Act does say that the person has the right not to be outed at work. And I think that person insisting, if an employer now says that man has got to use a male toilet, they are effectively outing that man as a man. Now, I don't think they should have the protection not to be outed as a man. And in fact, I don't expect anyone that doesn't know that Brian is a fucking bloke. Right? So I think we know what's going on. Look, let's remember that Labour were part of the Liberty thing. A lot of Labour MPs, Fabian Society, there's so much historic kind of really dodgy paedophile information exchange kind of wankery from the Labour Party and people on the left that this does not surprise me. The chair, like I'm the chair. Amazeballs. Let's go on Rachel's walking holiday with a load of cocks. But I think it is a conflict. That's why the Gender Recognition Act needs to go. That's why the Equality and Human Rights Committee needs to go. That's why the Equality and the Equalities Act 2010 needs to go. They all need to fuck off to the other side of next week. They just need to go. It's like you can't have an act that says we will protect women that is in conflict with saying that we will protect men who pretend to be women. Like, fuck off. I want to bring back discrimination. That walking group, I'd like them to be able to say, fuck off to men, like, if they want to. And this proportionate and legitimate aim, like, when you have a women's group, right, is it a single-sex group? Like, that will be the next challenge. Is a women's group a single-sex group? Or are you going to have a women's group that is mixed sex, but you can't have a women's group that excludes some men but not others, because then that's sex discrimination against some men. She just said in that, the reason I've asked you to send her, no matter where you are, the reason I've asked you is because she said she's had messages from up and down the country, right? That's the only reason I'm saying that you should send her a message. Because I think these MPs are all liars. That's what I think. I think an MP who claims that the only objection they've ever had to any of this is from men in dresses feeling like, oh, I can't wank in the women's toilets anymore. I think that's a lie, actually. Or they just ignore the ones from women. So mad. What are we thinking? Truny kid? Truny niece or nephew? It's like, I don't know whether she's straight or a lesbian. Like, is her lesbian girlfriend now wearing a binder? Did her husband trune out? I have no idea what's in it for her. But I really like Mean Girl #1 chairwoman. Actually, oh my God, Maysville's walking holiday. Woo! It's not difficult. It shouldn't take thousands, hundreds of thousands of pounds of court cases. It shouldn't. Have you seen the money sloshed around in a gender critical kind of arena for these court cases? Because the government won't just do it. Look, I don't blame the women, like Darlington nurses and Sandy Peggy. I don't blame them at all. I'm quite pissed off that nobody did this on behalf of patients. Like, it's been going on for years and nobody ever thought that it was bad. And those patients maybe haven't done it, which is, because they are relying on the NHS. So, look, you won't catch me in that room, in the club, chit-chatting, feeling special. It's so fucking I just can't even. Look, women do this thing, this sort of in-club, out-club thing. That's all of this. All of that female behavior is why we're here. That's not saying that the troons aren't to blame. That's not saying that porn-saturated men aren't also to blame. And without them, we'd all be much better off, wouldn't we? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, who opened the fucking doors? Women. It was the socialization that says, oh my God, I'm an accepted part of the club. Oh, I don't want anything for myself. I just want to do it for the women. Like, fuck off. Such a load of shit. I will freely admit to you that my goal is to stop this nonsense. My ego, right, who isn't part of my goal, my ego quite likes the attention otherwise, right? I quite like the attention. I'm not going to lie. I've got quite a massive ego, which has kept me safe often. So I've got quite a massive ego. That's not the driver for this. And I'm not going to pretend to you that I don't love all the attention. But being part of that club, do you know what that means? Saying, oh, I think you did great, Baroness Faulkner. I think, like, what she's faced at the EHRC. What? She got paid a load of money. And the EHRC is shit. And there was no reason for it to be shit. There was no reason for it to be shit all these years. They could have stuck up for women right from the fucking beginning, and they chose not to. Anyway. If you can stick to your guns, Nobody else is going to. Then secrets on here. Then I promise we will win. If you can write to old, if I want to exclude men from a women-only group, but I include men, can I exclude men? If you want to write to her, remember it's rachel.taylor at rachel.taylor.mp@parliament.uk. Send her along a little message. She'll love it. She'll love it. She'll be so grateful. I'll imagine she'll respond. Baroness of Wiltshire. I would love to be that. Oh, can you imagine if I got in the House of Lords? Woo! Be amazing. Tomorrow, it's my birthday. I know, it's crazy, right? Tomorrow it's my birthday. If you would, I'll do birthday. I'll do a little birthday one, probably. Might be in the car though, on the way somewhere. And I'm going to do a bit more of this because it's insane. Yeah, if you can just keep your eye and your eyes open and your wits about you, because there's many bad actors. If you can keep an eye on them, I promise we will win. And do you know why else we're going to win? Well, because I never. Oh, I'm trying to find it. Lose.